Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles here with Ben and Joey. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, feeling great. It's officially the off season, and we got the draft coming up tonight. So we got a lot to talk about today.
Oh, that is the case, Ben. Not only do we have the draft, which we will preview in depth a little bit later, we have a whole lot of other moves that have recently just happened over the last couple days.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time now. We're getting to the off season when we get moves and interesting things to talk about. So this is always really exciting and talking about this great draft class. If you guys, stay tuned watching later on will be a lot of fun as well.
No question. So let's get started with Poeltl like we always do. And we'll get into the few trades that have happened over the last couple days. We thought it was only right to go with a player that was traded last night for us about 45 minutes ago. Nick Claxton, the newest Chicago Bull. All right, so we're going to have a Western Conference non-center that's 26 or 25 years old. All right, we're on to the West.
Yeah, this could be decent amount of guys, but
Could be a lot of guys.
you got an age range at least.
Yeah, we do. Oh boy. 26, 25. Let's see, what would that put them? Trying to think about the draft class here since we're right near the draft. What year 26, 25 year old? I mean, Michael Porter Jr. is already, or no, it's not a Nets player. What am I doing? I'm already thinking Claxton's on another team. Okay,
And
Western Conference. Heck, you know what? I bet this isn't updated yet. We could go with this. Would be hilarious if it ended up being this guy. We could go with another guy that was traded. We could go with Aaron Wiggins because it might still have him on Oklahoma City.
We could.
And I believe he is 26 years old, and we wore the number 21 with the Thunder. I think he fits all those things. We want to try him.
Sure.
yeah, sure.
Hopefully, this isn't updated already. Let's see. Oh, it's not, and it's a guy that is on the Thunder.
Oh,
26, 25 guard / forward. Like, man, this could be like Isaiah Joe, another guy that could potentially get traded.
I was
oh
thinking,
yeah,
yeah, Joe, yeah.
possibly could be him.
Well, let's try it. Do
Yeah,
we all
we
said
can
it. Let's
try.
see what we got. Isaiah Joe. Oh
Oh
no.
no.
Lou Dort. Is he too small? Too old?
Yeah, he's probably too old at this point. I mean, it's kind of confirmed. This guy's 25 years old.
Yeah.
6'5" guard / forward. This won't be J-Dub. I think he's probably still got to be too young.
Topic. He's actually like number 44, though, isn't he? Though.
6'5". Oh my gosh. OKC. Jared McCain can't already be 25.
No. No, he
No
was
way.
a
Could
year
be yet.
and Duke.
But he wears free.
J-Dub, where's the number 8? That might not be super far-fetched that this is J-Dub, actually.
Never would have classified him as a guard forward. I would just say forward, but yeah.
I would agree. I mean, let's try him. Let's try him. Because Jalen Williams, let's see. There it is. All right,
That's-
J-Dub.
Oh, there we go.
I don't know about guard forward for me personally, but I guess.
He can do it all out there. We got J-Dub in 4. This is another frustrating one. I feel like it's kind of been the story of the season and the year for us in Poeltl. We get like super close in 2, but then it takes a couple more tries to get the exact right player. Let us know how long it took you guys to get Jalen Williams. But now let's get into all this news. There's so much we can talk about here. We'll just go in the order that the stuff kind of happened in, roughly. We'll start off with Aaron Wiggins. We'll start up with OKC trading Aaron Wiggins to the Atlanta Hawks for 2 future second-round picks, 2030 Atlanta, and then the least favorable of the Lakers and the Hawks in 2032. Now, OKC, we knew coming into this summer with, next season with J-Dub and Chet Holmgren, their pay raises both increasing to like $45 million salaries after being on their rookie contracts, that some of the end-of-the-bench role player type of guys were probably going to be on the route to be salary dumped to give more money to OKC. This is the first one we see here, Ben, with Wiggins going to Atlanta. What do you think of this trade?
Well, I thought, this is a fair trade for both sides to make. I think it was good for both. Like, for the Thunder, it's a way to collect a few extra picks. Wiggins, he had a few pretty good games during his time as the Thunder, but, fell out of the rotation this year. Obviously, it makes sense they had to move on from him for salary purposes. And for Atlanta now, Wiggins could possibly get in this rotation here as a good shooter for them, and that's why I like it for the Atlanta Hawks. This will be a good rotational piece shooter for them, and I'm excited to see how Wiggins could do with possibly more of a role there. So yeah.
Yeah, Joe. I said perfectly right there. I mean, he's a guy that with OKC was on such a deep team that guys like him, some other guys like maybe Isaiah Joe, Kenrich Williams are probably going to be on different team next year because they couldn't play. But I think JJ Redick actually said this during the season, maybe in the playoffs, about how the end of the bench guys like Wiggins and Joe and Kenrich Williams, they would be the 7th, 8th men on probably the rest of the teams in the league. So Atlanta swinging in and getting Aaron Wiggins essentially for free here is pretty good business for them.
100%. Good. Hopefully it'll be a good fit because he could be a very good contributing piece to the Atlanta Hawks team that kind of flipped the script, went into a different direction this year, but still did really well and has promise. This is them buying into that and very cheaply. And I'm with JJ Redick and what he's saying about the rest of those guys. Like, take after the Atlanta Hawks, go after them. You can get them for cheap. They need to shed that salary, and those guys are going to be good. So if Isaiah Joe's on the market, he's going to be a good piece as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably more valuable because he is known as that movement shooter, so he's going to be super valuable. But Wiggins is a very good player as well. I mean, in 5 years with the Thunder, 9 points a game, 3 boards, 49% from the field, 38% from 3. And he had his moments with the Thunder when they won the title. I mean, this year was kind of rough for him, fell out of the playoff rotation. But last year in the finals, he had an 18-point game in game 2, 14-point game in game 5. The meme is that Aaron Wiggins saved basketball. I know we talked about that a few times on this podcast. So, wow. Just got a Shams bomb, by the way, which relates to a future trade that we will have to talk about with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're going to re-sign Ayo Dosunmu for 5 years, $112 million. So we will talk about the implications on that trade coming up in a little bit. But fun, we get a Shams bomb while we're recording. But I think now what's next for OKC is what'll end up happening with where Isaiah Joe will go. They already declined Kenrich Williams. I think, again, Isaiah Joe and then I think Lou Dort are the 2 key players to watch from that team that could get moved because they can both be valuable probably for the exact opposite reasons of each other. Isaiah Joe, terrific shooter. Lou Dort, an all-defensive type of player. So we'll see what happens for them. But again, Hawks with some good business here. And to go along with that, Atlanta also re-signed CJ McCollum for 1 year, $21 million. Now, we should make the note, we're talking about some players that re-signed with their teams, and we're probably like, man, how is this happening? Free agency doesn't start for like another week until June 31st, or on July 1st, I believe, is when it officially starts. But teams can talk to their players, to their own players, even if they are free agents, starting the day after the final game of the finals. So after Game 5 of the Knicks-Spurs series, that was now like a week and a half ago, teams could start negotiating stuff with their players. So we'll talk about a couple Phoenix Suns guys later, but for Atlanta, we just talked about the Wiggins thing, and CJ McCollum, 1 year, $21 million, a huge pivotal piece that they got for Trae Young in the middle of the season. And I mean, Ben, he was a great fit for the Atlanta Hawks. I'm super happy that he decided to re-sign.
Yeah, only 1 year, so you play it out this year, see how it could keep going with him. And yeah, he had a few great games, to start that series against the Knicks. Like, he gave the champion Knicks a bit of a scare at the start of that series in the first round. So, yeah, I like the fit there, and I think it's a good move, not too expensive of a contract. So, yeah, I believe it's worth it for them.
Yeah, Joey, numbers-wise for McCollum this year, he played 41 games with the Hawks during the regular season, put up 19 points, 3 boards, 4 assists per game, and when he started in 23 of the games, Atlanta went 19-4. We're one of the hottest teams in the NBA, and a lot of that was because he was their, lead point guard, scorer type of player with all the other talented guys they had in that starting lineup.
Yeah, it's again talking about Atlanta. They made a move getting rid of Trae Young in the season and wanted to go in a different direction. And getting CJ McCollum, it's just like, well, how much is that going to translate? He's getting older. Is he just going to be kind of a guy collecting a paycheck, kind of like what he was doing in Washington? But he played really well. He delivered that veteran leadership. Atlanta has a good core with Nah and Jalen Johnson, but those guys are still super young, coming into their own. So they're going to go off, but it's not going to be as consistent. That's when CJ McCollum steps in perfectly, who can give you 15 to 20 any given night you ask for it. He's been doing it for like 10 years now, it seems. So, he is kind of, like you said, he's a perfect fit for Atlanta, and good solid deal, I would say. 1 year deal, they can move on if they want.
Yeah, Joey, what you said about seems like he's been doing it for 10 years. I mean, the stat is last season was the first time in 11 years that he didn't average over 20 points a game, and he averaged like 18.7. 11th straight year of making 153s in a season. Like, it really is crazy. Like, he is probably going to go down at the end of his career. Like, obviously, there are other guys that could, go in this realm that are a similar archetype of player, but CJ McCollum, personally, I think could end up being the best player in NBA history to never make an all-star team. Like, it's not going to be right when his career is over that the only accolade he got was most improved in his 3rd year, and that's it. Like, this guy has been, like I said, he's been a consistent 20-point scorer for the last 10, 11 years, and even now for this Hawks team, he was, their number one option down the stretch. It's crazy to think that CJ McCollum handed 2 game winners to the New York Knicks in the first round. He beat them twice, and no other team was able to do that in the playoffs.
That is the Dame Lillard effect. He played with Dame Lillard. That duo was so much fun. When they broke him up, it was heartbreaking, but he clearly learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, talking about the guy that CJ McCollum was traded for, Trae Young, let's talk about Trae Young as he got a new contract with the Washington Wizards. Now, in the last episode, we talked about how he declined his $49 million player option, and we're like, what does this mean? What type of deal is he going to get with the Wizards? We all knew pretty much that he was going to stay with the Washington Wizards. The deal is 4 years, $212 million, which is $53 million per. Oh, boy. Guys, we have another Shams bomb. We got the Giannis trade.
No way.
Miami Heat.
Oh, my God.
Giannis has been traded to the Miami Heat. It has finally happened. Oh, my God.
Oh, I knew it.
The Heat?
It has finally happened. All right, we've got to talk about this. All right, the trade. I'm going to make the graphic right now, but I'll read you guys the details right now. The Milwaukee Bucks are trading Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis to the Heat for Tyler Hero, Kalel Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Kasparis Yakuchonis, 3 first-round picks, including the 13th pick in tonight's draft, 1 pick swap, and 1 second-round pick. Oh, my goodness. It finally happened. It finally happened, guys. Let's talk about it, man. Oh, my goodness gracious.
Wow.
Finally, dude. We've been talking about this for the last calendar year, and finally it happens. All right. Well, I think the first place that we have to start with is Giannis finally ends up going to the Miami Heat. We've been hearing the last several days that it was coming down to the Heat and the Celtics for who was going to get him. And as early as an hour ago, I was seeing Chris Haynes on NBA TV saying that Giannis to Boston was a done deal and they just need to work out the men's. Clearly not. So what do you guys, Joey, let's start with you. Giannis going to Miami instead of the Boston Celtics.
Well, first off, I hate Boston. F Boston. So this brings just a happy tear to my face. Even though people would think, oh, Cleveland fan, LeBron left. No problem. I don't give a crap. Not Boston. But let's be real. This is the Milwaukee was looking for the biggest and best deal possible. And I know Jaylen Brown was on the market, and they were going to probably give up Jaylen Brown. But with all of this is a absolute haul for them. Apparently, the Heat are also sending Milwaukee unprotected first rounders in 31 and 33.
Oh my! It's 31 and 33.
Along with the 13, a pick swap in 2030 and a 2030 second rounder. But that is the best haul you could get. All-star right now in Tyler Hero. 2 future possible, or at least 1 future all-star and probably Kalel Ware. Another future starter in Jaime Jaquez. A bunch of first-round picks. And then another young guy in Yakuchonis who has untapped potential. For Giannis, and then a guy that you wanted off your books as anyway. That is the best haul they could have ever gotten. I know I wanted him in Cleveland too, but this is probably the best haul they could have ever gotten for Giannis. So well done, Milwaukee. And well done, Miami, for finally landing your star. Who knows how it'll look and how it'll work out now that you've given half your team to Milwaukee. But you still have Bam and Giannis, and that is going to be just horrible to going up against. I'll just say that right now. Defense, on the offensive end, if you're trying to score and you're looking and running down the court and you see Bam and Giannis looking you down, you're shooting from beyond the arc, and that's all you can do.
Ben, let's hear your thoughts on this. What are your initial reactions to this happening?
Yeah, well, I said when Miles said, "Oh, this just happened," I said, "Well," I was like, "Yeah, I figured this could happen." Well, part of it was I caught Bobby Portis on Twitter. Well, X now, following the Heat Central page. So I was like, wait, I'm confident this is going to happen to the Heat. And I stuck with it. And look, it happened. Giannis and Portis to the Heat. So they are in Miami. And wow, like Joey said, what a haul the Bucks got back. I mean, this is huge. They convince Miami now to give up a huge haul and make it official. And I mean, 3 first-round picks, including number 13 this year. It's nice they'll get 2 first-round picks. So, we'll be thinking about that with the draft preview now for Milwaukee, of course. And Tyler Hero, that guy grew up in Wisconsin near Milwaukee, going back to his
hometown kid.
Hometown kid getting to play for the home city team. See how that goes. And I was thinking like, well, maybe this would be a multi-team trade somehow. I was thinking, who knows? Maybe the Pistons were somehow gonna swoop in and get here. There's some rumors on that, but right now this is just a one-team trade. Who knows if any of these guys get offset in the future to another team? Any of these players the Bucks got, but they're to Milwaukee for now, and yeah, I really like it for Milwaukee. Just what a haul, you get multiple nice young players like Kawhi Ware, Jaime Hawkins Jr., Conspiracy Could who have we could who have more potential in them that could develop there. Taylor Jenkins, they're around, and guessing these guys will be on the team to start the year, and then for the Heat, obviously you're gonna have to
Here's
kill
their
for some
here's
to get
their team. Here's their
Giannis,
team.
and yeah, now they're morphing depth wise. I wonder if they sign another guy or two. It wouldn't surprise me to try to round up some depth they can, and uh, it's good for the Heat, I will say, because they got Giannis. They finally landed a star, and I mean, it's a superstar. I mean, out of all these stars like they struck out on recently, I mean, Giannis I think is even better than them. So I mean, I say they won here, and like Jimmy said, that's gonna be a scary front court. I mean, yeah, I, right now I would say like, man, I gotta go with that as the best front court of basketball. Onto the Kumpo and Bam, that's really good there. Curious to see what could happen with the back court and how that'll align with that going forward with them.
Yeah, so now as you see with this trade, Miami, they gave up a ton to make this happen. We talked about it. Hero, an all-star for them. Khalil Ware, a young prospect that has a lot of promise. Jaime Hawkins was just runner-up to sixth man of the year. Yakuchonis was the steal of the draft last year. Didn't get a whole lot of time, to really show himself this rookie season. But now, if you're Miami, again, you just gave up a whole lot to bring in Giannis, and I forgot Bobby Portis is the backup center now as well, which is crazy to think as well that he's a part of this trade. Um, but yeah, I mean, Miami, the front court does look scary. I'd have to agree, best front court in the league, Giannis and Bam. What they're going to have to do now is they're going to have to prioritize re-signing Norman Powell, who was an all-star for them last year. We'll see what type of money that he gets back in return for the Miami Heat. But man, it's crazy that this has actually happened. According to Shams, the Celtics offered Jaylen Brown and 2 first-round picks to Milwaukee, and that was the trade. And obviously, that's not giving up as many players, but Jaylen Brown was just arguably, I mean, voting wise, he was a top 6 player in the league that just led the Celtics to the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and rightfully so, with him also winning Finals MVP a few years ago and leading the team this year. You could make the case that that was a superstar, and he clearly was the best player that they could have gotten back in the trade. So, Joe, I know you gave your thoughts on this. Ben, do you think that Milwaukee made the right decision bringing in this haul, this combination of young players and first-round picks, or should they have gotten the superstar All NBA, former Finals MVP in Jaylen Brown? Or do you like what the Heat gave up better?
Yeah, I think they made the right decision here now. Like, you know, a big thing that was nice for them with this deal was they were getting another like good like first round pick that it's in the lottery, the Heat's lottery pick at number 13, so they could select 2 good young players, the strap obviously to bring in, and you're getting, they just had more, that the Heat was willing to offer in this than the Celtics. Jaylen Brown's a great player, but I mean, how much really the Bucks could have been able to do? I mean, nothing too crazy. Still, Brown, you're getting multiple good young players out of this. Like maybe Tyler here being in his hometown, maybe could somehow do really well here. Then you have, Hawkins, conspiracy Jonas and Khalil Ware with more good young potential, who could develop there, depending on how they stay there and, how that goes. But, I mean, you get multiple good young players. Brown's great, but I think this package is better than the Celtics, and it, I don't think the Bucks, as I expect right now, could be great coming up next year, but it could help them be good enough to at least not be like in the relegation zone, possibly. See if they aren't the best, if they're keeping Tyler Hero and these guys for next year too, but could be good from it.
I'll be completely honest, and it's probably a real hot take, and obviously it's a hot take just because it just happened and I'm thinking of it. But I think this Bucks team, now that they traded and with what they got back, if they're healthy this year, I think they could be as good as the Bucks were last year with Giannis, or even a little better. Because
let's see,
that's a lot of because they got players that help fix, and I know you can't replace Giannis, but depends on, this is a deep draft. Anybody in this draft in the lottery can help change your team. So getting that 13. So, and again, I don't expect them, but the East is still a weaker conference. I don't think the Bucks fall worse than 12 in this Eastern Conference, even after trading Giannis, which is the same as they were last year.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. I mean, 32 wins was what the Bucks were at last year, and they had Giannis in and out of the lineup, for them. A majority of the season, he wasn't available for them. But again, I mean, that's not bad. I mean, you take a look at what the Bucks, have now. They have these four guys that, in theory, in a potential world, there could be a world where all of them are starting for them next year.
All of them are
heading into next year.
They're all at least in the immediate rotation, like 8.
Yeah, but what they're going to have to figure out is their guard play now, because they have Tyler Hero, Ryan Rollins, and Kevin Porter were some nice stories for them in the backcourt last year. I think Kevin Porter, I believe, is a free agent, so that might be a guy that they are willing to just walk, and we'll see if that's a domino effect. Porter has a $5 million player option, so that might be someone that they just, wave goodbye to. But, I mean, you still have Miles Turner on your team. Yep. Kyle Kuzma is still on your team. Obviously they're iffy players, but AJ Green, we'll see if they, keep Gary Trent, Torian Print, guys like that. But this isn't bad. This isn't a bad place to start from when, again, you're also getting the 13th pick, which could definitely net them a good player in this loaded draft. And for a Bucks team that doesn't have a bunch of their own future first-round picks because of the first that they traded in the Giannis era, having a team that can still be competitive is not a bad thing at all here. So I think that the Bucks made the right decision here. I wasn't sure if I am just kind of surprised that the Heat actually ended up trading this much to get him, because it is a lot. It is a lot. We've talked about, and as it should be, by the way, for Giannis, who is an all-time player, who is still, a terrific player. Something that we should talk about with him and the Miami Heat going forward is, of course, this team could be very good. We'll maybe talk about where they land in the Eastern Conference right now, but the Heat gave up a lot to get Giannis, who has had a very injury-filled last couple of seasons. Although he is incredible and a top player in the world, he has dealt with several lower leg and calf injuries over the last really 2-3 seasons. So, it could be this is a risk that's absolutely worth taking. I'll make that very clear. But I think that's something to watch for here, is that Giannis is very injury prone.
I think the cure for that is those nice sunny beaches down in Miami. I think that'll be a nice cure for all those leg injuries. Him resting and putting his toes in the sand. I think that is enough of a cure to get Giannis to healthy. And I'm guys, the season just ended, and I'm ready for it to start again.
I know the biggest domino has fallen, and we finally got it down. Man, this is just crazy. This is just crazy. With the Miami Heat, of course, they're going to have some, on the mend roster decisions that they have to make here going forward. But that's probably going to be on the margins, bringing in some reserve players. I would expect this to be the opening night starting five, which is pretty good, with Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Giannis, and Bam. That's a lineup filled with defense, scoring, shooting, skilled players, and by the way, they still have Eric Spoelstra as their head coach. So they definitely look pretty good. How good do you think they are, though? Now, talking 10, 15 minutes after we got this trade, where do you guys think this team ranks in the Eastern Conference? As they have been a playing team for the last, several years, dating the last 4 years, even when they made the finals in 2023. This has been a playing team. So how high do you think this trade could elevate the Miami Heat?
Well, for the Heat, I think it could elevate down to potentially finally like a top 6 seed, and they do better at least in the regular season. I wouldn't say right now I have them one few top spots there, but at least getting into the top 6. My thinking right now, initial reaction.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it moves the needle for them just out of the play-in. If you were to, before they make all the moves, and before you see the other Antetokounmpo on there, because Thanasis has got to follow him.
Very true.
We got to see, but right now I would say they're 6.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to make any crazy overaction, and I'm sure there are going to be some people saying that this is now the favorite in the Eastern Conference. It very well. I don't think so. It very well could be by the end of the season. Again, best front court in the league. They have an all-star scorer at their shooting guard position with Davion Mitchell at the point. Look, the championship Milwaukee Bucks starting lineup. Just looking at it. With this Heat team, you can kind of see slight comparisons with Norman Powell to Chris Middleton, 2 scorers that will be the ones taking the shots down the stretch to close games. You have a big that's a shot blocker that has become a 3-point shooter, and obviously Bam is way more than Brook Lopez. So that's obviously an upgrade. Norman Powell and Chris Middleton probably on the same tier as when Middleton was in his prime. Davion Mitchell, I would call a Walmart Drew Holiday, who is vastly improved on the offensive end. And Andrew Wiggins, at this point, is a sensational role player who's become a terrific 3-point shooter off the catch, can play solid defense, and if needed, he can go get you a bucket at the small forward position. I really like the way their starting 5 looks. I think it's one of the best all-around starting 5s in the league, and to me, it mimics what the Bucks had when they won the title in 2021. So I would say that this team a year from now could have the potential to do some very special things. But on hour 1 of this trade, I will say that I expect this team to be top 4 in the East next year.
The only way they get to actually championship contend is, and I have heard some rumors of it, and I really hope it doesn't actually happen, is LeBron going back down to South Beach. And now if LeBron joins the crew, then you might actually convince me, because that could just be the nail in the coffin. You don't need a point guard if LeBron is there.
Yeah, I really like their team. I know Davion Mitchell isn't the greatest point guard, but he's very serviceable, and it helps when both of your front court, Giannis and Bam, a lot of times they can run point forward, point center, and handle the ball. And with Eric Spoelstra there, I think they can have the creativity to do a lot of different things with their team. I'm very excited to see how it works on the floor. I think we need to give our flowers to Pat Riley for finally getting this. Like you said, Ben, bringing in, probably the best player here. I was so prepared to be on this podcast if Giannis got traded to Boston, or I'm seeing that, Minnesota could have been a possibility because Giannis was open to signing an extension there. Only 3 teams, Boston, Minnesota, and Miami, were the 3 teams Giannis was open to signing an extension to. But I was so ready to get on here if Giannis ended up with Boston or another team and saying, look, enough is enough with the Miami Heat. I'm ready for Pat Riley to go because there has been so many star players that the Heat have been in the market to get. When you look at Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, even more, way more that I'm probably, forgetting
James
here.
Harden, maybe.
James Harden. I mean, you could probably go down the list of every single player, star player in the league, and at some point they've been linked to the Heat. And for the last 5 years, they have struck out, and it hasn't, and it's put them in rough positions in different years. They finally did it, and I personally really love their team. I really love their team. My questions are the injury concerns with Giannis and if they can stay healthy because, with trading the young guys, they are I think they're still pretty deep. They're not as deep as before, but I really like their team. So shout out to Pat Riley for finally getting the guy that they were looking for. And like you said, Ben, this is probably the best player that they could have gotten over the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, question I have with them is their depth's not the best right now behind the starters. I'm gonna guess they'll try to get some guys with some cheaper contracts there, though nothing too crazy to see if they can fill in some more depth on the bench. I'm sure they're aware, but I mean, with the starting lineup, I obviously really like depth, but you gotta, I believe he has some depth in order for me to think okay, you could possibly be a championship contender, but I'm definitely intrigued by this team, and I'm excited for, Heat fans too. I know a few friends of mine that are Heat fans, and I'm sure they're just so excited about this that they finally landed a star player.
And by the way, well, obviously this team needs to improve their depth. And, obviously free agency isn't what it used to be. There aren't the greatest guys available, but there are always solid role players that are on the market. And bringing Giannis to Miami, which is already a free agency destination, they're going to get depth in free agency. There's just no way around it. They're the Miami Heat. I don't think that's going to end up being a problem for them. Of course, we need to see the moves that they actually make, but I will be very surprised if this trade doesn't allow them to go in next season with a good 8, 9, 10 players that they can play.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what I could expect out of them too. To be honest, they're just gonna trick guys that want to come there even more. Maybe take a lesser pay because they know they could have a better chance winning even now too in Miami.
Now, Joey, question for you about the Milwaukee side of things. You're saying that they could be competitive because they do have a pretty decent haul from this trade. Do you think that they're done with making moves? Like the guys that I mentioned that they still have, like Miles Turner, Kyle Kuzma. Do you think that that the Bucks will look to trade those guys now, or do you think that they will keep them going forward into next year?
I think they may be done for now, at least with some of those bigger names. Maybe they'll sign someone in free agency or something just depth help or something, or who knows, something minor. But those are the names I think you would look to at the trade deadline at this upcoming year. Because I think they may be competitive, but I'll be honest, I still them. As of now, I probably still would predict them at the 12th seed or something, around 30 or 32 wins that they had last year. That's what I would predict them. So they're still not going to be that good. But so those are the names like a Miles Turner or a Kuzma or even an AJ Green or something like that. Now that they got a couple of these other guys, or even a Jaime Jaquez or something that maybe they try to move on for at the trade deadline. just to free up some space to maybe bring in someone else the next offseason to pair. Or who knows, maybe they just want to be bad. Or you really don't know until you see what they got out. If they're healthy, they're playing well, or if Tyler Harrell gets hurt or something like that happens, it completely changes everything. Like it'll completely change their entire outlook for the whole season and just what happens in the first month. So, and whatever happens at the start of free agency, still got a long way to go.
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe this broke while we were recording. Of course, we still have a whole lot to get to. This is going to end up being one of the longest episodes, probably, of the podcast history. But before we move on, we do it for basically every major trade. We have to do it now. We have to grade the trade for both the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. I guess I'll get started with this one. I give the Miami Heat. I'll give them an A minus. This is a great get for them. Of course, getting. You know, we already broke it down. He's an unbelievable all-time player, the best superstar that they've gotten in a long time. But they did have to give up a lot to do it. And again, I do have concerns with Giannis's calves and his lower legs, which who knows, maybe South Beach, the sunshine, and you know that can help get it better. But this is a guy that is only getting older that does put a lot of pressure on those calves and those legs by attacking the rim relentlessly every single possession. So I would not be surprised if it doesn't work out because of the injuries, but this is a thing that you have to take the risk, obviously. I think this makes them a great team. So A minus for Miami, and I give the Bucks an A plus with this trade. This is an incredible haul that they got back, and definitely what Giannis Antetokounmpo should warrant in a trade return.
Ben, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, I agree. Miles for the Heat, A minus. Obviously there's risk involved to it with injury stuff possibility, but I mean, Giannis is a superstar. He's up there as one of the better players in the league, and he's phenomenal when healthy, still on both ends, and I believe you can over these next few upcoming seasons get, a phenomenal play. Hopefully, if he's healthy, of course, and it's a ton to give up too for them. I'll go there, and then for the Bucks, ooh, right now I'll say it's a B plus for the Bucks in my opinion because you know I do really like that they found the way to be able to get so much back for Giannis like they did. They got some good young players, to work around for the future who, if they start looking good on their team, could be a part of the future plan there. And cool, I guess, seeing Tyler here out of some town Bucks for now. The 3 first round picks, I really like that you get 2 lottery picks now in the first round for Milwaukee now in what I think is a great 2026 draft class too. It helps it's a great draft class with still being, I believe, some pretty good talent there available.
Interesting. I will say, so Ben, you went B plus.
Yeah.
Why? So if you like the haul so much, why is it only a B plus? I'm just curious.
I mean, it's like I would say just Tyler Hero. He good. Like I mean, who does? I mean, I question like how that could totally work out there, but he's good. Maybe it works. But overall, I mean, maybe they could have got it's like something better. They like were another team, but like he was interested in Miami. They were interested, so they did get a nice return. I don't know. I don't know why I give them a B plus. It could be tricky for reactions. I don't know. I, I'll say I'll say that they're both A minuses. Like, and it's tough that part of it that was how things had to end with Giannis, but it's a great haul. I mean, you get a lot pick for the guy, at least. Like, you should hopefully for Giannis if you were gonna trade him like they just had to.
Joey, quickly, what are your grades for this trade?
A+ for Milwaukee. They got everything back, and those first round picks are huge, especially that they're unprotected in 31 and 33 after Giannis will be retired and gone from Miami, and who knows what Miami will look like. They might not even have Pat Riley there, so who knows what Miami could be looking in potential turmoil around that time. So that could be huge picks for Milwaukee later on the line. So I love those. To be honest, though, I only give Miami a B. He when healthy, he is an MVP type guy, and he can take your team to whatever heights. But you gave up half your team that made you guys even be a play-in team the last couple of years. Tyler Herro was your offense. Jaime Hawkins had to be runner-up for sixth man of the year. Khalil Ware and Bam Adebayo were a great two-tower kind of setup down there, and now you're taking one of them away. It's just quite a lot for a team that now you don't really have the depth and you don't really know what's going to happen. You trust the guys that you have because they've done their, like Spoelstra, Giannis, but like you got all the, and Wiggins, like you got all the veteran leadership and all that kind of stuff. So this is to go all in. This is what you're supposed to do. And again, free agency is about to be open, so they can still do things to help their depth out and stuff. But for right now, as it is, I would just say a B.
All right, fair enough. Final thing before we move on to the trade, I think we do have to talk a bit about Boston not getting Giannis, like, because that is a major thing in this. Like, they were right there to get him, and for all reports, it sounds like that the Celtics not being willing to throw in an extra young player, Hugo Gonzalez, and the Heat being willing to throw in Jonas is what ended up making this trade happen, which is kind of crazy. Like, Joe, you were just saying that these were all, key players from. That's obviously true. But to me, I kind of look at what Celtics fans must be thinking too. It's like, if Kasparis, Jonas, Jaime Jaquez, those guys should not be players that deter you from making the Giannis trade. You know what I mean? Like, if that's the final straw, I think you just have to throw it in. And I think Celtics fans are now going to be like, we were Hugo Gonzalez away from getting Giannis. And obviously, Hugo Gonzalez can be a very good player.
Yeah.
But I think that Celtics fans are going to be feeling pretty upset that is what costed them getting Giannis, which could have made them the favorite in the East.
Yeah. I don't know if I buy that, though. Again, I like the first-round picks a whole lot more, the unprotected in 31 and 33. And, yeah, Boston probably could have picked that, given them unprotected picks. But Jaylen Brown is much younger than Giannis. And Jason Tatum is much younger. And it's Boston. They're never bad for a long time. Are you really going to bank on Boston having a good pick at that time, or you're probably going to get a 20 to 30 pick in the first round? Meanwhile, Miami, who knows what's going to happen? You could get a top 10 picks by that time. Like, I think the picks, at least, were kind of a big seller. I trust Miami to be bad at that time more than I trust Boston.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I just think Celtics fans are not going to be happy that this.
No, they're not.
Like literally by all reports, according to Chris Haynes, that's what happened. The fact that the Celtics weren't willing to give up Hugo Gonzalez cost them Giannis. And now we have to see what the Celtics end up doing, what these other teams in the East are going to end up doing, because Miami just made their move to jump up to being a potential, playoff championship contender. Personally, I would say that Miami has jumped over Boston, who lost in the first round and don't have a whole lot of depth pieces. Like, I think they certainly have to do something. The Pistons we saw in the playoffs, their offense is easy to guard, and Eric Spoelstra and his team would figure out how to guard that. Like, I think that these other teams in the Eastern Conference, like the Pistons, the Celtics, I mean, potentially the Cavs, I think that a lot of other teams are going to have to try to match this.
That's your opinion. That's fair. I'll be honest. I buy the Pistons and maybe the Cavs. I don't buy Boston. I think Boston is still probably the better team because they lost in the first round. And I know we gave them a lot of credit for coming back early, but Tatum did not look like himself. I expect Tatum to have like a full off season of actually being healthy to come back next year to be a completely different person.
Well, I will stand by, and Ben and I have talked about this before. Yeah. Tatum is not the reason why they lost the series. It's the fact that they continue to live and die by the three, and when they don't have the depth to cover around that, then I personally am very skeptical of the Celtics' playoff chances. I think they're still going to be a very good regular season team, but we now have a bunch of years of sample size with them not changing their strategy and dying by the three and losing, and we've seen them lose in favorable matchups in 3 of the last 4 years. So because of that, I need to see the Celtics do something else. If at the very least, change their strategy, because if they do the same thing again, that's what I said. Even if they got Giannis, it didn't matter. They need to change what they do, because if they lose, they're going to lose for the same reasons.
Yeah, that's fair.
But my goodness, that's incredible. Giannis Antetokounmpo traded to the Miami Heat. It finally happens after a whole year of waiting to see where he ends up. We had a whole lot of different suitors, it felt like, throughout New York. Was the one that really came out. San Antonio, I know Nick was trying to push that earlier on this podcast, but ends up being the Miami Heat. Let's go right from that. Okay, we still have a whole lot to cover here. Let's go into the other trade that happened last night, the 3-team trade, which sent Julius Randle to the Brooklyn Nets along with the 28th pick in tonight's draft. The Chicago Bulls get Nick Claxton from the Brooklyn Nets, and then the Minnesota Timberwolves get Muhammadu Gay and the 33rd pick in tonight's draft. Joey, where do you want to start with this? Because this one came out of nowhere. A very interesting trade. What do you think of this?
And again, this is not the first time I've said this tonight, but I thought that was going to be the craziest thing we saw tonight or today in NBA news. And for the second time, something has stopped it. But this was a crazy trade. Happened when I was driving back from Columbus. I was shocked. I was like, oh, what is Minnesota cooking? What are they doing? What are they getting? That's the biggest name, I think. Brooklyn, taking them. They can take the salary. They got all the young guys. I don't expect much. They get the pick. That's totally fine. Like, they're just kind of there. Chicago getting Nick Claxton. Solid, young, big guy. Surprised it wasn't a guard, so good on you, Chicago, for not trading for another guard. I'm very proud of you. You guys truly are going in a different direction. But again, very just shocking to see what Minnesota does. And they did do something. They re-signed Dosunmu because big deal. 5 years, 112, was it?
Yes.
5 years, $112 million that they re-signed him right after they traded him, Julius Randle. So who knows what else they're due, but that's pretty solid. But I think Minnesota has to do something else if they really want it to work. Because as of now, that and DiVincenzo is what they got for Cat, and that's not really a good look especially after he just won the championship.
Yeah, Ben, Minnesota, I think, is definitely, I mean, they're obviously the best team of the 3 involved here, and the fact that they made a cap trade It does kind of make sense, obviously, freeing up money that they end up using to sign Ayo Dosunmu, who was a huge pickup for them, at times won them the first round against Denver in these playoffs. But Ben, I mean, what do you think about this for the Wolves side of things? I mean, Julius Randle, this is a former All-Star player that, he struggled in the playoffs, but overall, I mean, I thought he played his role pretty decently enough for Minnesota over the years, and they dealt him for a second-round pick and cap space to re-sign Ayo Dosunmu, but then you lose a really talented player.
Yeah, I'm surprised by this, because I thought maybe if Randall were to get traded, it would be in some deal for John Moran or a high level player, something like that. I was just so surprised to see he was only for like a second round pick. You also were giving it your late first. I can understand you want to get rid of that salary and a big contract, but still, I'm like skeptical of how the Timberwolves future could be, and like I wonder, like, do they have something else lined up that is sort of a big name they're getting that could help them and help them be even better? Like, gotta have something like that lined up, or they, or I just think they're not really gonna get better. Maybe worse. Like right now, you know, I'm not a fan of it for the Timberwolves. It's okay. It's not terrible. I understand moving on for Randall's salary, but skeptical of it. But for Chicago, I really like the way they're trying to build things. I'm glad they got a center who's a nice, solid center, and Nick Claxton who can play some good defense, protect the rim, and catch lobs on offense there. And for the Nets, they they did well in this too. I mean, Randall, Michael Porter Jr. That will be an interesting watch. But I think part of why the Nets did it so was they could at least stay competitive enough, hopefully, but not great, to where they're hopefully not in the relegation zone for their future. But and I mean, getting another pick in the first round too is nice. I've noticed their GM Sean Marks over these last few years likes to get some extra first if he can.
It's exactly why they made that trade to get Julius Randle. They wanted to stay out of that relegation zone. They're like, we need to be just bad enough to be, but good enough to be out of that zone.
So this is a very interesting trade for a lot of the things a lot of the reasons that you guys mentioned. Totally agree with you guys about the Minnesota thing. They have to do something else here, because I think it's a pretty rough message to send to Anthony Edwards, who's one of the top players in the league, an ascending superstar who is an incredible basketball player, sending him a message that we just traded away pretty much your co-star for a second-round pick and cap space to re-sign Ayo Dosunmu, and we're not going to replace Julius Randle. Like, they are going to need to somehow replace his talent, because right now their team, they're starting five. Now, something that's good about this trade is that finally Naz Reid is going to be the starting power forward for Minnesota, who is deserved that opportunity for a long time. He's a very good player. You could say, I mean, you can make the case he's a more skilled player than Randle. He's certainly a better shooter and defender than Randle, which is certainly valuable. So now it's Dosunmu, Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert. But then your bench, if you can call it one, there's really not much at all. Of course, they have DiVincenzo, but he's going to be out for probably the whole season with the Achilles injury. Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be their best bench player. I know we're high on the podcast. He's going to really have to take a good third-year jump here for the Wolves to do something. And then outside of that, I mean, they had like Mike Conley and Kyle Anderson playing huge roles for this team in the playoffs, and that's just not something that they can do trying to win a championship. So, the player that I'm going to be watching for them going into next year, because they just gave up a big player for them in the front court, is Johan Berenger, the 20-year-old second-year center from France coming in next year, is going to have to show something for them next season, because if not, This team is legitimately 6 players deep. And some of the players, like Rudy Gobert, I said it last year. Rudy Gobert, he really impressed me with the season that he ended up having last year. But look, he's going into his age 34 season for his archetype of player. I just don't see how many more good years you're really going to get out of him at a championship level that the Wolves need to be trying to get to. So I don't know, man. I'm not going to – I hate this for the Timberwolves. If we grade this, I'm giving them 100% giving them the lowest grade.
Oh, yeah. No, I would if I were to grade the Wolves on this, because, again, as of now, before they make any other moves, all they've done is re-sign Ayo Dosunmu. So as of now, you get like a D, I'll be honest, because you have room to improve. You have room to – you're not failing because you can do something else, but that can't be it. Like, if you do, that just can't be the last thing you do.
Yeah. Also considering, by the way, I'm not sure. I don't think that Minnesota was ever going to get Giannis.
Yeah.
But if Giannis said that he was going to sign an extension in Minnesota to, pair up with Anthony Edwards in the Western Conference, Minnesota, I think, should have tried. That should have been their all-in move. If they were going to make roster consolidation moves to make the team more shallow, trading Randle for nothing is not the one. To me, that is one where I'm okay with potentially throwing in McDaniels and maybe Randle or Gobert to try to get Giannis. I don't know. I don't know if it would have worked out. But if Giannis said that he was going to be willing to sign in Minnesota, I would have at least liked to have heard that they threw in an offer.
Yeah.
At the very least.
I agree.
The Brooklyn Nets. Michael Porter and Julius Randle on the same team is certainly going to be interesting. Ben, the points that you've been saying about these teams making trades to try to get out of the relegation zone, that's a very good point. It's something that, we talked about how would first-round picks be traded, like if that would change. I think this is something that's very interesting to see, is that these teams at the very bottom are trying to make these moves so that they're not absolutely garbage. Now, what I'm curious about for the Brooklyn side of thing is, this was a great deal for them because they were able to swap Claxton for Randle and also get another first-round pick in this draft, which is really good here. But, Randle makes a lot of money, and this is a Nets team that I was thinking was going to try to be in the sweepstakes to particularly try to sign Austin Reeves. I thought that Austin Reeves could have been someone that could have left the Lakers to go to the Nets to be to be the star on their team. I think that would have been a very attractive situation for Reeves to go to, but instead the Nets got Randle instead. I find it very interesting that they opted to do that before free agency started. Like, I love the trade for Brooklyn doing this, but if I were them, I would have considered waiting until after guys like Austin Reeves, Jalen Duren, Walker Kessler, guys like that had already signed before then making the move to fill up your cap sheet by getting Randle.
Yeah.
Ben, what do you think?
I mean, maybe they did this trade for Randle partly because they somehow think Reeves will be most likely signing with the Lakers. I'm not sure if that was a thinking they had, possibly, but yeah, they could have maybe waited. It was a good trade that I think I would have waited more for more of an answer on that if I were them, but yeah, maybe they know something that we don't from behind the scenes of those negotiations. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely interesting. And probably a week from now, we'll make our official free agency predictions. But to me, this trade signals to me that I would expect Austin Reeves to probably stay with the Lakers. And honestly, I was thinking that the Nets could have been a very strong possibility. It's funny. I reference him a lot. The other BA, Brett, the Lakers fan that I have at college with me, I was joking with him ever since like November that Austin Reeves is going to go to the Nets in the offseason. And I legit thought, like, there were reports that the Nets were going to offer him a max deal. So time will tell. I mean, they can still make other moves. Like, they have Terrence Mann's contract that they could trade. Like, they have other things that they could do to maybe clear up money to offer the max spot. But I think that it's very interesting that the Nets decide to make this trade. And then the Bulls, I mean, great. Like you said, guys, I mean, they gave up nothing to get a starting caliber center who, has kind of been under the radar in Brooklyn because, it's the Nets and they haven't been that good the last few years. But very good shot blocker, defensive player, and lob threat to pair with Josh Giddey, Modest Buzelis, and I would expect Caleb Wilson after tonight's NBA draft. I think that's a very good foundation for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's grade. Joe, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm just happy that the Bulls are going a different direction and not trading for a guard. It's a changing of the guard, literally.
Yes, it is. But yeah, let's grade this trade. From these three sides. Joe, you already started us off with the Wolves. Why don't you give it? What do you think of this trade from the Nets and the Bulls perspective?
Yeah, Wolves D. Brooklyn. Again, they have to get out of the relegation zone of the shows, but yeah, I'd give it a solid B. Like, they did what they probably should have done. They didn't have to give up much. You're still not going to be good. You get another first-round pick, overall solid move. And again, probably a B+. Nothing for the Bulls. Nothing crazy, doesn't put you over the edge, doesn't move the needle a whole lot, but it's another good building piece for your young core. And again, he's under the radar. You can help these guys a lot. And you didn't really give up anything, so very good move.
Ben, how about you?
I think for me, the Chicago Bulls get a A-. I mean, hardly had to give up anything for Nick Claxton. That's really good for a good starting caliber center. Then the Nets, I agree with Joey. I give them a B right now. Like, nothing too crazy. Julius Randle, interesting tryout there, but we'll see how it goes. And the Timberwolves, I give it a D. Not impressed there. Not terrible. I mean, you did get rid of that contract, but skeptical as of right now. I think they would need to make some other move, possibly, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think D for Minnesota / I for incomplete because maybe there are, they do still have some moves to make. But right now, I hate the trade for them. Chicago, I mean, it's hard not. I mean, I give them an A+. They gave up nothing to get a player that perfectly fits with them and is under contract for this season and the next year. It's not a crazy contract, but they could flip it again even if it doesn't work out. I think that this is a no-lose situation for them. So I give them an A+. And for Brooklyn, for the reasons I stated before, I'll give them a B as well, because I think that they could have waited until after they had struck out on free agents to then bring in Julius Randle. But definitely an out of nowhere trade right there. Let's go to the out of nowhere coaching hire with the Dallas Mavericks hiring Dusty May, head coach of the national championship Michigan Wolverines. This, it came out after that the Mavericks were looking to hire a big name college coach. They asked John Shire from Duke as well. He declined, and then they go to Dusty May, and he accepts the deal here. We talked about it before the podcast that this is the first time that a coach has left college ranks right after winning the championship since Larry Brown 38 years ago. So this is certainly unforeseen territory. Ben, I remember talking about Dusty May being a potential for the Magic back when it originally happened, and we were talking about how we haven't really seen anything like this before. It kind of reminded you of the Dan Hurley situation, but we see it happen now. Dusty May is going to Dallas to pair up with Cooper Flagg and whatever prospect they get here tonight. I'm sure you were shocked by this news.
Yeah, I'm shocked. Like, I heard some rumors. Oh, the Mavericks were looking at, two of the top college coaches, John Shire, the Duke coach, Cooper Flagg's college head coach, and then, Dusty May. And I was like, well, I think John Shire would be a bit more likely because he did at least coach Cooper Flag and college and liked them a lot. But I heard Shire didn't want it to stay at Duke. They were really aggressive at both of his college coaches, and somehow Dusty May he really liked this opportunity, to go to Dallas and to work with Cooper Flag, and I think he was like ready to already move on from college. Part of why, with he coached a great team and program at Michigan, but the NIL stuff, college, I think was driving him a bit crazy, and now he he can really focus on being an NBA coach, which he's excited about, and while being in what is a good situation, to try to build something special at potentially. And yeah, I do really like the hire for Dallas. I think to me Dusty May is quite impressive basketball mind. It was quite impressive how through college he was quickly rising up the ranks, like from doing really impressive, making a Final Four at Florida Atlantic to then doing really well at Michigan, winning a national title there. I mean, it sort of reminds me of Jim Harbaugh from Michigan that talking NFL, leaving after he won a football championship, going to the Chargers. Now there's this. That's how we compare it in basketball for like football terms. And like, it's funny. The last team, to hire like a college head coach in the NBA are Cavaliers hiring John Beeline,
Yes,
but
it is.
he was put into a tough situation, I would say, on a rebuilding Cavs, and we didn't really have like that franchise player on our team back then. But yeah, I really like it. He seems like a smart guy that like I could trust. He can know what he's doing, even in the NBA, and he's in a good spot. He seems to know Greek coaching techniques, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it works since we haven't seen something like this in a while.
Yeah, and even going back probably over the last 20 years, I would say, I mean, probably the only successful college head coaches that made the jump to the NBA are probably Billy Donovan and Brad Stevens. I'd probably say the rest of them are probably been, this they have not really been successful. Like you said, Ben, the John Beeline Cavs thing, the slugs thugs comment and got him resigning midway through the season, and we haven't seen anyone else try it since. So, Joey, what do you think? Do you think this has a chance of working out for Dusty May going to the Mavs?
Uh, yeah, I think so. But I do want to say, don't ever mention John Beeline ever again on this podcast. That was just the absolute worst decision. Made no sense at the time. Doesn't make sense now. That was just an awful situation. But this should not be like that. But it was just very shocking. Like, I understand like NIL's bad, it's very making everything very, very complicated, and feel it just makes it professional now. It's not even just amateur in college, it's professional league. But he won a natty. You would think this was the building of a dynasty or something, because he's such a good coach. Like, I truly did not expect him to come out of college right now. I thought maybe if he had a down year next year, or if he did well again next year, maybe he'd be like, all right, I clearly got the hang of this. I think I am ready to take the next step. But right away, good for him. I think it'll be a good move, though.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it works out. I think that it's great that he's going to the situation with Cooper Flag, as the number one guy there. I mean, that's going to be super fun to see how it turns out, and we'll see if Dusty May going to Dallas will have any impact on their draft selection here tonight. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Before the Giannis trade happened and just shocked us, we were in the beginning of talking about Trae Young re-signing with the Washington Wizards for 4 years, $212 million, which the deal was equivalent to a max contract if he went somewhere else, but it was slightly less than the max that he could have signed with the Wizards. So he didn't leave a little bit on the table. Of course, the Wizards are one of the unknown teams in the NBA. I'd say that the two teams that I'm really looking forward to seeing next year, because we just haven't seen what they could be yet, are the Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz, who are, of course, are the top two draft picks, here. But Trae Young with the Wizards, we like the fit at different times. But Joey, one of the questions was, how much were the Wizards going to pay to have him be their point guard, of this kind of resurgence heading into next year? What do you think of the Wizards signing him to a $53 million salary for the next 4 years?
What was his player option that he denied?
It was $49 million.
And we all said, man, he probably won't get more than that. But the only reason he said that he denied it was because that he thinks he's going to get more. But I wouldn't pay him more money. Well, they paid him more money, and good for them, I guess, and good for Trae Young getting your bag still while you can. I certainly wouldn't have done that. I know he said he left. You said he left a little on the table.
He left about $9.7 million less than he could have signed in a max deal, and the potential contract figures would be 47 this year, 51 million in 2028, 55 in 29, and then a player option in 2030 for 59 million. So it's a lot of money, and obviously the cap's increasing every year, but those appear to be the figures the next few years.
Yeah, that's still like $10 million overpaid in my opinion. But they have to go all in, I would say. They made the trade for Trae Young and Anthony Davis. They clearly are ready to go in a new direction. They're ready to go all in on a new direction. Obviously, with the number one pick coming up tonight, they could easily go from the number one pick into playoff contention right away. That's why there's one of the most intriguing teams of this season. So I understand why they got Trae Young and gave him that money, because they wanted to keep him, because you traded for him. You wanted to go all in to try to pair him with AD, see if you two can find yourselves again. But again, I probably wouldn't have paid him that much. I think that's a little bit of an overpay, just because it's Trae Young. The Atlanta Hawks got better without him, and that's really just not a good look, especially from a point guard, a veteran point guard that you look for leadership.
Yeah. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Fine. Yeah, so my thoughts are, it was a ton of money for Trae Young. It's like more of I expected by a bit. I mean, at least it was a little off of max, but yeah, I mean, I agree with what Joey was saying. I don't think they should have paid that much. It was a bit extra much, but I mean, they traded for him, and you have him here to try to go in more for winning, and so I sort of understand why, but it's risky, and good. Trae Young's making money, that much money somehow, which is good off of this, but I not a fan of it, because he's a small point guard, not great defensively, though he could be pretty good offensively, not a superstar still, and so they at least know they will have him, but I don't think I would have given him that much, but now we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think that Trae Young and his agents should be throwing parties right now for him getting this deal. I mean, we talked about it all season, how He just had a pretty rough year. I mean, it was the worst year of his career. He only played 15 games. He dealt with a lot of injuries at different times. And I do think the Wizards, they obviously had to keep him, but I don't think that I don't know if they needed to give him this much money because we've talked about it before. Who else was really going to be all over trying to get Trae Young to their team? I think the one team we talked about was the Miami Heat as the backup plan if they didn't get Giannis. Well, guess what? They just got Giannis. So who was going to be the team that was going to give him this much money? Like, I think there should have been more negotiating. Trae Young has said that he desired a trade to Washington last year, and he wanted to be there as part of the resurgence. So if that's the case, then I think he could have left a little bit more money on the table. But on the other end at the other end, this is a guy that before last year was coming off of his 6th straight year of averaging a 25.9 assist season, which is incredible. He is a one-man offense on his team. Now, he obviously gives back a lot defensively, but the Wizards have a very good defensive infrastructure with a lot of their young players. And, of course, now Anthony Davis with Alex Sarr in the front court, Bilal Coulibaly, Trey Johnson, and, well, most likely, AJ DeBonsa. We'll talk about, if we think he should go number 1. But they're going to get an elite prospect to pair along with those guys. And with all the young players, Trae Young making this amount of money while all these other young players are still on their rookie contracts, I don't think that's bad. Like, it's not bad. Like, this may age out to be pretty bad, but by the end of this contract, Trae Young is going to be like 30, 31 years old, and theoretically, he should still be performing at an all-star level. So I feel all right about this, I would say. I don't feel great, but I don't feel flat out awful that this is the worst contract ever.
I agree. Again, I probably would have given him closer to like 45 mil a year, between 40 and 50, but just over 50. I feel like that's just that's superstar pay. I feel like once you cross the 50 mil, I feel like that's just the superstar pay. And unless you are a legit like top 15, top 10 player in the league and a legit superstar, you should not be getting close to that.
Yeah, and look, what this shows is the Wizards giving him that contract. I think they believe that in some of those years of that contract, Trae Young is that caliber of player, and maybe he can get back to that. Again, like I said, I was coming into this past season probably the highest on the Atlanta Hawks of any non-Hawks fan because I thought they could go on a Pacers-esque run with Trae Young doing the Halliburton, which none of us thought was that crazy. Like, wow. We're not that far away from that. So we'll see. I think they could be very interesting. Again, very excited to see what the Wizards end up doing. Last thing before we, quickly talk about the draft a little bit. The other couple of re-signings quickly. The Phoenix Suns re-signed a couple of the rotation guards, re-signing Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin. Gillespie, they re-signed for 4 years, $48 million. Goodwin, 3 years, $18 million. Gillespie was a terrific find for them. Started for them most of the year, set the Suns record with 232 made threes in last season. And Jordan Goodwin is, one of those scrappy defensive type players. Walmart Dylan Brooks, I would say. He's always been a good rebounder for being a smaller guy. But a pesky defender, can score a little bit, and Suns bring back those two guys. Joey, what do you think? What did you think about this?
I love Gillespie. I think he's got one of the purest shots out of all these young guys. Him, Nipple, I feel like are kind of in the same range, at least with shot making and like their form and stuff. I put him up with there and get him up with that kind of deal with only what is that, like $12 million a year or something like that? That is an incredible deal, in my opinion. He's going to be huge for them.
Yeah, Ben, what are your thoughts on the Suns quickly bringing back these two guys before they even hit free agency and, in my opinion, signing for below-market deals for these two guys?
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't sign for some more money, but still, Greek deals for them. I think maybe those guys were willing to take a bit less for like the benefit of the team, possibly, since possibly they enjoyed being in Phoenix and last year, surpassing a lot of people's expectations from the beginning of last year on them. And yeah, I those two guys were nice rotation pieces for them last year, and smart moves to retain both.
Yeah, definitely would agree. But man, now finally, after about an hour and a half of talking about other news, let's talk about the main event of the night, which is the first round of the 2026 NBA Draft. Finally tonight, 8 p.m. on ABC and ESPN. Always a super fun night. Here is the order of the draft. We mentioned the Wizards and the Jazz with the top two picks, and the Grizzlies at 3, and then the Bulls at 4. I think we've kind of briefly talked about it on this podcast at different times, and I'm sure you guys watching have also seen across the board here. It seems like this draft is a top 4 heavy draft. With the guys at the top. Joey, who that the Wizards should pick first? I mentioned Ade Bonsa earlier. Of course, Peterson could go up there. Who do you think that the Wizards should select with the first overall pick?
Yeah, this is a very good draft. I'm with Ben. I think this is a very, very pretty deep draft than we think, and a very good draft. But I'll be honest, I really only know the top 4. I'm very iffy on my college ball knowledge. I only watched March Madness every year, but that's it.
Fair enough.
But who I think the Wizards should pick and who I want them to pick is completely different people. I want them to take Patterson. I really do. Or Peterson. Sorry.
Yeah.
Darren Peterson. Because I've seen him talking, and he's very confident that the Wizards are going to pick him. So who knows? Maybe that could be a pretty good matchup. And if this whole Trae Young thing doesn't work out, I think this guy's kind of a baller. I think he would be a pretty good fit. Plus, I think Devonta staying in Utah would be kind of a fun story. Him going to BYU and him just staying out there and being another superstar to go with this, like we said, it's just incredibly interesting, excited Utah Jazz team we got coming up this year. But I think AJ Devonta is the best player in this draft, and I think the Washington Wizards will take him because he kind of slots in perfectly for this team that they have built.
Yeah, Ben, we've kind of talked on this podcast before, but about who we think could go here. Do you think that the top 4 of this draft is set? Like that the order is probably set in stone. With we've talked about Devonta going 1, Peterson 2, and then Cam Boozer to the Grizzlies, and then Caleb Wilson to the Bulls.
Well, I think it's not totally set. I think the most set one to me. Well. Actually, number 1 right now, I would say could be most set. I think most likely the Wizards will take the Bence 1 is what I'm thinking, and he is number 1 on my draft board. I think he is so talented. Has great height, great length. I believe could be a superstar potentially in the league, and I think makes a bit more sense now with the Wizards since they just extended Trae Young that big deal, and he could slot right in good, I believe, as their starting small forward. And it could be more of a tough spot for Peterson because they do sort of have a loaded good young guard room. I mean, they still have Bub Carrington there who's solid, and Trey Johnson, he's a point guard who they took with their high draft pick last year, who could develop even more to be a good player potentially. And yeah, most likely Caleb Wilson could fall to the Bulls somehow with the Jazz. I think they should select Darren Peterson if he's not taking number 1 at number 2, but Cam Boozer's dad, Carlos, somehow was he has some player development role, I think, somewhere.
He's a scout. He's a scout for the Jazz and a former All-Star with the Jazz.
Right. So I'm not sure if there'll be any leaning towards Cam Boozer from that, but I think Darren Peterson will be a better fit to that team, and I like him even more as a prospect than uh, Cam. I think, yeah, I like Darren a lot. I think I think he maybe could be like Shea with the way he plays because at Kansas, like when he was on and playing, he was great at getting to the foul line. I remember he's 6'6". He be a taller guard. He has a good ball handling skills. I really like Peterson. He could potentially be such a good number one option in Utah. And yeah, then like first two picks go how I think those teams should do it. Then I, I would guess Boozer could go to the Grizzlies at 3, Wilson at 4. I would really like the fit of Caleb Wilson on the Chicago Bulls with Tiago Splitter. I think they would work really well together, and I think with Splitter, me believing he's a good development coach, Wilson still needs some development to be made, especially on offense with his shot, but he looked like a really good defensive player in college at North Carolina, and I'd be really excited about that too. On the Bulls trying to develop, a better, tougher defense there, like they need to. And yeah, Cam Boozer on the Grizzlies would make sense. Would be great for them. Who knows? Maybe they take Wilson or Peterson randomly slips the free. The Jazz somehow randomly passes him. Well, take him at free, but uh, yeah, Boozer would be a nice fit on the Grizzlies. If they took him there, that's what they think. Could be a good dominant, like bigger guy for them. But see, can't wait.
Yeah. I can't wait either to see what happens. I mean, honestly, the top four that I laid out that I think is, if I had to put a number on it, I would probably say it's probably 85% sure that it's going to be these top four guys. Because what I'd say about the Jazz and Carlos Boozer being in the front office, I honestly don't think it has anything that's going to have anything to do with their draft selection. If it does, I don't know. I don't think it'll end up having anything to do with it. If for any other reason, they wouldn't have made the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade in the middle of the season when they already knew they were going to be tanking to try to get one of these top picks to make a loaded front court and then create bigger problems going forward by bringing in Cam Boozer when you already have Markkanen Jackson and trying to re-sign Walker Kessler. But I honestly, the top four of Debanza, Peterson, Boozer, Wilson, if it is that order, that's the order I want to see because I think that allows for the best fits for these individual players with these teams. I mean, Debanza being the wing scorer for the Wizards would be incredible with Trae Young, getting him the ball, playing with Anthony Davis and Alex Sarr would be awesome. We've talked ad nauseum about how Darren Peterson could just slot right in and create an incredibly promising lineup there with the Utah Jazz with Keontae George, Peterson, Markkanen Jackson, and if they can re-sign Walker Kessler with Ace Bailey now off the bench, like that could be incredible. And then these two other big guys, Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson, going 3 and 4 would be great. I'll say I'm kind of similar to Joey where I'm not able to catch a whole lot of college basketball throughout the year. I'm kind of doing my prep work right now of watching all these prospects really and looking at their highlights and their numbers and their player comps and all that to get a feeling on these guys before they get drafted here tonight. And of these top four guys, obviously, there are impressive things to watch with all of them. But I'll tell you what, Cam Boozer is a player that I was really impressed with watching the highlights of, his season there with Duke because I saw him used in every way possible on the floor. In the post, as a pick and roll ball handler, he's super big and strong. He's got great footwork. The 3-point shot, something that could come along, but he made a few of them, throughout the season. I'm very impressed with what he was able to show, and I think that he could be a great fit for the Grizzlies because it seems to me like he can be used in any way you ask him to be used, which is not the case with these other guys. So, I think I'm very excited to see what he does. I think going into next year, this might be the Cam Boozer might be the player I'm most excited to see of these top four.
Yeah, DeBonce is probably, in my opinion, going to be just electric to watch. I think he's so much fun to just watch highlights of. And this is a highlight league, according to Adam Silver. So
Yeah, yes, it is. Well, Ben, as our unfortunately no Nick today, is busy trying to make a big move here coming up soon. But with that, Ben, you're essentially our draft expert here on the podcast here today, and I have a couple questions for you. Now, again, I've done a little bit of my own research, but I want to hear from an expert on this stuff. Now, like we talked about, the top four does seem kind of set here, which means that the draft really starts at pick 5 with the Los Angeles Clippers. And from the 5 to kind of 10 range, there are a whole lot of guards right around there, a whole lot of point guards, a whole lot of guards. And the Clippers just got, Darius Garland in the middle of last season, but now they got the 5th pick from the Zubats trade. Who do you think the Clippers should select at number 5 with all these guards that are available to them? I think the Clippers, this is the first pick where they've got a lot of pressure. I think the Clippers have some of the most pressure in the draft to get this pick right with all these guards available.
Yeah, there's some different routes they could go. Like, I'm a big fan of Darius Acuff in his game on offense, but he hasn't been all that good defensively at Arkansas. He's a shorter guard. Now I heard they have been linked to Keenan Wagler, who's a bit bigger at 6'5". He had an impressive year at Illinois. That team finally getting to the Final Four, put up some good numbers. I'm guessing Wagler, but then I don't know. It's tough, but I think if I were done, I don't know. I just really like Darius Acuff as game offensively. Uh, I would go him because I would still believe if he's still there at 5, he would probably be best available. But Wagler is a better defender, and he could fit well on that team with, I know them, wanting to implement a good defensive system, play a tough style with, Van Gundy. I assume still being there as like their defensive coordinator there, along with
Yeah, and Ty Lue's
Tyronn
still there.
Lue. So yeah, I don't totally know the Clippers, though. I kind of have an idea they could really like Keaton Wagler, maybe Mikel Brown Jr. He's I believe a 6'5" guard, put up a pretty good year at Louisville, maybe him. But I can't wait for when it gets to 5 because it's just gonna get more unpredictable, I think, there with the draft.
So, Joe, you were shaking your head at Darius Acuff. Why?
the only reason is because I completely agree with Ben that Darius Acuff is one of my favorite players. I loved watching him for Arkansas in the tournament, but I want him to drop to Sacramento. I want him to be
That
there.
one,
There was
that
mutual.
was what I'm guessing though with him.
I don't know if it's gonna happen because I agree. I think he's one of the best guards outside of any of those top four guys. He is just insane offensively, but that's the only reason I was shaking his head because I want him to somehow fall to 7.
He would be a great fit on the Kings, and I've heard he's been like most interested in Sacramento
He
somehow.
wants to go there.
That's
like,
what I've heard too. That's
He
why I'm
wants to go
hoping.
there, so it could be like a business thing. Maybe he falls there. Who knows? Maybe the Clippers and the Nets somehow do really like him and somehow don't care and like they're gonna take him. But I am guessing he's gonna go to the Kings if I had to guess right now.
Yeah, I was just saying the only reason I was shaking my head was because I want him to go to the Kings. I think he's a baller, but I also I think Wagler's a better fit for the Clippers just because Acuff is smaller, super offensive minded. It especially since you just traded for Darius Garland, that they would clash a little bit. So I feel like Wagler being a bigger guard would at least help the Clippers in the long run.
So what the Clippers are going to have to try to figure out here is, obviously, we said they trade for Darius Garland in the middle of last year in the James Harden trade, who is a smaller point guard that, again, is offensive minded, has had injury problems in the past with the toes, his face. He's had a lot of different injuries. We know as Cavs fans, he's had a lot of different injuries, but a very talented player. But if you're the Clippers here, I don't know if Darius Garland is like too good to where you have to pass up on the best player available. If you think it's Darius Acuff, then I think the Clippers should still get him, and then you worry about the rest later if that's what they believe. But what I think will happen is that they will go with Keaton Wagler because he is bigger. He can play off the ball. He can, play a little bit more defense. What I'm going to be curious to see is if Darius Acuff is able to get past the Nets at 6. What do you guys think that that's a possibility that he could go to Brooklyn?
Yeah, maybe, but I did hear today that McCollum Brown Jr. Nets were visiting with each other 3 times, so they seem pretty interested in him. I'm gonna make a prediction that they somehow select him, and I think they're gonna go more towards a guard, just off of the Randle trade they made today. But I like Acuff even more than Brown though, but I do think Brown is great. I would be pretty interested in Acuff if I were the Nets, but Brown, he's a bit taller. He still would be good for them as well, possibly. So, yeah, we'll see there.
Yeah, I got the ESPN mock draft up, and it says Mikael Brown decided not to go to Sacramento for his workout because he seems to be very liking his odds for the Nets, maybe. And he's a good ball handler. He's a bigger guy. I like bigger guards. I just like Acuff kind of fitting well in Sacramento. That's kind of why I want him to go there. Plus, he's just an offensive beast. But theoretically, especially with the way the NBA is moving, the bigger guards are going to help you a lot more, especially if they can handle the ball really well, just for defensive possibilities, especially with the way everything else is going in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we briefly touched on this with Dallas hiring Dusty May. Do you think that changes what the Mavericks want to do at 9? Like, would you guys expect, there are a lot of Wolverines that are projected to go, around that area. Do you guys think that one of those guys could end up with the Mavericks with Dusty May once again, right after winning the national championship?
Well, after hiring him, I was thinking, yeah, it's got to be a higher chance. Obviously, Cooper Flag, your main guy, he's a big, 4 guy. That's what Lunderberg is too. So I'm not quite sure what they would think totally with that, though. Dusty May will have so much good, helpful information to that, obviously, to Dallas, and they could, be in the need here. I think they're in the need for another guard, possibly, alongside Kyrie, who they'll have Kyrie, I believe, to start next season. And it's tricky with Dallas. I'm not totally sure what direction they could go in. I do really like Yaxel Lunderberg out of Michigan. And he mentioned in his pre-draft interview he would love to be there with Dusty May. So maybe that's it. I'd be interested in him if I were them, but there's different possibilities for sure there.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a very important pick for Dallas. Like I've talked about throughout the season, with having Cooper Flag after, the number 1 pick last year, an incredible rookie season, set to be an incredible player for them. This is their last first-round pick for the rest of the 2020s. So this is their best chance to get the I don't know, I don't know, young co-star with Cooper Flag because who knows what these guys going into the league, but the best young player, supporting player. This is Dallas's last chance to really do that for a long time here. So this is a pick that they need to get right, in my opinion, because we've seen different times, throughout the course of history. Like the one guy that Cooper Flag is compared to a lot that I honestly look to is LeBron with the Cavs, and how LeBron being so good so early, forcing the Cavs to be out of the lottery or not have the best draft pick scenarios, didn't really allow the Cavs the first time through to draft the best young prospects to pair with LeBron James, and that cost Cleveland in the long run. Dallas, you wonder if that could be the same case here if they don't get this pick right, and then they don't have another chance for another like 3-4 years. So this is going to be very important for the Mavericks.
I do think there is a possibility they trade down as well and trade back, maybe move on from this pick, trade down to maybe OKC just a couple picks later, maybe pick up another pick later down the line as well. But then, especially if both of those bigger guards are gone, like if the guy from Illinois and Mikael Brown are both gone by the time it gets to them, because that's exactly who I would try to pair with a Kyrie Irving, because I'm assuming they're probably going to want to. Dusty May's probably going to want to see what he's got with Kyrie, and if you pair him with a bigger guard, that would be perfect. But if those guys are gone, maybe trade down, maybe try to get somebody else later down the line. And
we have seen,
yeah.
And we have seen, there have been reports on some teams talking with the Thunder about, well, like we talked about at the very beginning of this podcast, about OKC moving on from some money here. There could be a situation where Oklahoma City looks to trade 12 and 17 to maybe trade up, and Dallas could be a perfect spot that's able to trade 9 for 12 and 17, and they also have the 30th pick, which ironically enough I think is the Thunder's actual pick.
Yeah.
So that'll be very interesting. Ben, I'll ask you here, outside of maybe the top 10 or maybe even outside of the lottery, are there any player team fits that you really want to see happen here in the first round of tonight's draft?
Ooh, yeah, that's interesting. I do have one I've noticed, and it involves the Chicago Bulls. I mean, they just got Nick Claxton, but another like big guy at 15 who I do really like. I do think is like a sleeper player in this draft is Washington's Hans Steinbach. I think he has some pretty good athleticism. This game reminds me a bit of Sabonis, the amount of Sabonis coming out of college, and I think he would be nice for the Bulls. I mean, I think it would be nice if you could add like another big man too. I don't think Nick Claxton should be like the only one that I would be looking for if I were them, and I would look to possibly use like your other first round pick on a big, and Heinz Steinbach I think fit in good and could be nice to Chicago. And I also like the fit like of possibly Perez Johnson Jr. a bit later on in the first round, of like the Charlotte Hornets, getting up.
That's one I was going to say.
There, yeah, that's a good one, Miles. Yeah, I think he would fit in good in Charlotte, and was the winning player, obviously, at Michigan. And I do, really like their big Dave Morrow, who we haven't brought up yet. I think he could be a possibility for like OKC, as like maybe they're looking at him as a future big. Say if Hartenstein somehow left in the near future, or Atlanta could use more size, maybe they take him top 10, number 8. That could be a good fit. Or maybe the Bulls randomly somehow get Barb, though I doubt that. but we'll see.
Joey, you have any player team fits that you want to see?
I like that Mara pick for OKC, but realistically, I'm looking for Darius Acuff to come home to Sacramento. He wants to be here. I want him there. That would be just beautiful.
One that I'm curious to see, and it'll be low key on the overall realm of the draft, but late in the first round, our Cavs have the 29th overall pick, and the guy that I've been seeing mocked there for the most part is Henry Vasar, 7-foot center from UNC, and we've said for a while that the Cavs could certainly use a backup big, and who knows if he could ever pan out. I think that is certainly a pick that the Cavs could use, is another 7-footer.
Yeah, we also need a guard now that ours is in prison.
Oh man, but man, this is gonna be a whole lot of fun here. I guess last thing I'll ask you here, Ben, every single draft everyone can make all the big boards and the mock drafts that they want, but no matter what happens, we always see a player or two slip a lot further than expected. Even do you have any players, Ben, that you have ranked pretty high on your big board that you could see a world where they drop down, a whole lot of picks?
Yeah, I could try to make a prediction or two on that.
Yeah,
it's a bit tricky, I've been surprised multiple years with that before. You never totally know who these teams have, but I'm thinking like I'll say like Nate Ahmet maybe could slip a bit. Like he was nice at Tennessee, but he had some great games, but also some like stinker games. He's a like developmental guy. Maybe teams pass on him more of a maybe expected because developmental thing. Like I know he somehow had like stinker against Miami of Ohio somehow, though Tennessee still dominated that game. But maybe him, Kingston Flemings. I like his defense is good, though. I think he could be more of like a higher end Case and Wallace. Maybe he slips a little bit, or I do, or LeBaron Filon's pretty talented offensively, but he's not that big a guard. Maybe teams want more size. I have like 13th on my big board. I could see maybe going lower than that, even possibly for being like a smaller guard, but that's what I got.
Yeah, man, this is going to be a lot of fun. The draft is always a super fun day. We'll see if we get any more crazy trades. Now that the Giannis deal has been completed, now it's time probably for the next wave of players to be on the market. Like, we talked about, the Celtics not getting Giannis, but now what does that mean for Jaylen Brown since he's been dangled around so much over the last few weeks? Is he now going to be traded to another team? Will, some other teams will Kawhi and Ja and, Kyrie Irving be on the market? Michael Porter, could he, still be on the market even though Randle got traded? Could Randle get traded again? Like, there's a whole lot of stuff that we can now kind of phase to now that the Giannis deal is done. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see what happens with the draft. Again, it is tonight, 8 p.m. on ABC. Excited to have Ben over at my place to watch the game. Currently trying to figure out some technology to hopefully get our live reactions of whatever the heck happens here tonight. So we will certainly see, but that is it for us here on the longest Run in the Paint podcast in probably history. You guys have anything else before we get out of here?
Thanks for making it this far, fellas.
Oh, my.
What an episode.
What an episode.
I'll say this is definitely one of the longest and definitely one of the all-time best.
Yeah.
We were saying in the pre-pod lobby, Ben and I, that we've done, with all the recaps and stuff, we've probably done like 250 plus podcasts and episodes and stuff. And It has rarely happened besides when we've intentionally done like the free agency podcast. I don't think it's ever happened where we had live breaking news hit during the podcast and we just got one of the biggest trades in NBA history. So that's certainly nice.
Quite incredible.
It really is. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you got all the way to this point, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the draft, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Peace.